Hi everyone, I am so glad you are here today because I had an interview with my friend Brittany Gibson of the Homestead Challenge, and I think you're going to just love her. Brittany has a great website and blog called the Homestead Challenge, where she shares all of the tips and tricks she has learned along her way of discovering the world of simple living, natural living, and what it means to be a modern homesteader in a world where, there's a lot of modern convenience. And so she shares a lot of how to kind of meld these two different worlds together, and that you don't really have to give up all of these different things in order to get the benefits of simple living. I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation with Brittany, so let's get to it. All right. Hello, Brittany. Thanks for joining me today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to you. Really, I am.
Oh
It's
yeah, this has been the highlight of my week, so I'm thrilled to be here with you all.
yay.
It's super exciting. I think we're just gonna kind of dive in here, and because I know people want to know more about all the things that you're doing, and but starting from the basics of, if you just want to tell us a little bit more about you and your background, and how you got started with I think with homesteading, because I feel like that's what you're sharing with everyone these days.
Yes, so for those who don't know me, I am Brittany, creator of the Homestead Challenge, and I um I really call myself a wannabe homesteader. So I don't live on a homestead. I live in military housing. So definitely very different from a lot of the homesteads that are normal homesteads. But I grew up like in a very normal, like American middle class upbringing. It was wonderful, great, but I definitely didn't learn any of these homesteading skills that I've trying to learn now. I'm definitely not an expert on any of it, but slowly adding different things into my homesteading tool belt. um, so, like most people in 2020, I hate that my story starts there.
I think a lot of us do. It's okay. There's a lot of this. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, in 2020, my best friend and I actually decided to start learning some of these skills. I had just moved here to Alabama from Hawaii, actually. So,
Oh, that's different.
didn't have much to do when I got here. um, and we were just, we decided to make an Instagram challenge, and we called it the Homestead Challenge, where we were just challenging ourselves each week and anybody who wanted to follow along to learn a new skill each week. So that's how it started. And then I decided to create a blog. And so I actually created the blog in 2020, but I then got pregnant, totally, like a lot of people, dropped off the face of the earth for like a year and a half, and now I'm back. So that's kind of the story of the Homestead Challenge.
I love that it started between you and a friend. Like, I feel like that's like a great way to start something, right? Because then
Yeah.
you're both curious and wanting to know more, but then you have the support of each other. And so I love that that's actually part of your origin story in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
it's um my best friend from back home. So she is in Ohio, and so we live quite far away from each other. So it was a great way at that time to still stay connected.
Well, that's also fun. And then because it was like 2020, right? It's not like anyone could go and visit each other
True.
necessarily. Yeah. So it was like that's a really unique way to stay in touch, but then also, I don't know, keep growing and learning in that season of life. And I
Yes.
when I understand the falling off and coming back, like that's what motherhood does, right? It's like, I mean, it can be anything, but
Yeah.
definitely that season. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I feel like I wasn't really into the homesteading at that time, but I did end up having a home birth with my second child. So like that's all along in all the homesteaders talk about is all that kind of thing. So I was still in the community, just in like a little different narrow section of the community.
Okay, because that's what I want to explore. Because I think there's so many who like I think look at it and they're like, well, wait a minute, how did you go from like learning to make your own tea to then having a home birth? It's like, how does that journey?
So fast.
I know it's like suddenly you can kind of get into these things. Well, okay, that's really fascinating, and I love that So does your friend still do these things with you or
Not quite as
okay.
much. She also had another baby.
Yeah.
And since we do live so far away, it's kind of hard to connect, but I've talked her into a few more things. She didn't go quite as ham on all of it as I did, but she is really excited for me. I'm going to be moving back closer to her again. So we're definitely going to be having all of the canning parties and everything. She's already getting her garden started there. So she's going to be ahead of me. So I'm going to have to steal her garden abundance.
Community gardening, right? That's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm curious. Okay, so I know now, okay, how you got started with that challenge that you did with your friend. And then I'm curious then, what did you guys start with? What was it that you
So
started?
first step, start a sourdough starter.
Okay.
Of course. So I actually still encourage this as people's first step. And I know it sounds so ridiculous because it was the 2020 thing, but I think that there's still so many people that are scared to start these things because it sounds so scary. But literally, like, you don't have to go out and buy anything. Almost everybody has flour and water at their house, and they can literally just make it today. And then I think that gives them permission to call themselves a homesteader if they want to.
I love that.
So just do it. That's kind of my thing. I'm so bad at sourdough. I do it. I have a sourdough starter and I use it all the time.
Uh-huh.
But my bread's so ugly. I hate measuring things. I just go for it. I
Love it.
so it's not that scary.
I love that. I think it's good to give people that permission, right? Like just it's okay to try and be a part of that process. And so I guess I'm curious, did you run into any challenges in that process? Like, in terms of, I mean, well, like literal challenges of things not working, but then I'm curious how you kind of have worked through even those mental challenges that would come up during that time.
Yeah, so it's obviously everybody always says it. It's so hard to see the perfect sourdough loaves on Instagram and everything and think that yours has to look like that. And
Right.
they don't.
No.
Even my ugly loaves are always delicious. Like, it's really not. I just want to encourage people to know that like, if you're failing, it's still edible and delicious. It's just because it's ugly, it does not matter. Um, but yeah, the first time I made my starter, I thought that I had killed it. And I learned very quickly that you can't really follow a recipe because everyone's house is different with the humidity levels and all these different things.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All you have to do, like mine was just really watery. I threw it away too because I thought it was bad, but really I could have just added flour and no more water
Oh,
at
okay.
that time, and it would have been fine.
I think there's something you hit there, which I love that there's like a curiosity that's happening and they're willing to get in there. But then right, like you sit there like, well, I've done this wrong. So I must have to like throw this out.
Yes.
And that's I mean, I can see that being just a huge barrier in general, just to even if that didn't work, then it's like, okay, well, how would you get to the next thing? Which I do like about what you're doing in your space is that you make it feel very accessible and that people get to learn kind of like alongside you.
Yeah, because I'm definitely still in the lower levels
Yeah.
of expertise.
So I'm curious if is there anything you want people to like when they come to your site that you want them to kind of get from there, or that you hope that they'll leave with, or in return, obviously. But I'm just curious what your hopes are.
Absolutely. I guess from what I say on Instagram is that, like, I want to bridge the gap between conventional and intentional living. So whatever that looks like for people, I've been so normal all my life, not necessarily like natural living or any of this stuff. So I want people to know that if you are interested in any of it, you don't have to be super crunchy or anything
Yeah.
like that. Of course, like, I love following all the super crunchy people, but some people that's not their thing, and that's totally fine. So I want people to know that it can look different for everybody, that if you want to homestead, you don't have to go all the way. It can be on a scale and you can do whatever you want to do. I just basically want to turn everybody into little wannabe homesteaders.
I love that.
Living more naturally for themselves and their family.
Well, and I think I mean, and I think that that's a beautiful thing to offer to the world, especially at this time where we're all kind of reemerging, from those I don't know, the dust of 2020 and it's like this idea that you can still be in your home and actually cultivate that as a very safe and loving and holistic, but also a place of curiosity and growth is just,
Yeah.
I just really like that that's what you're doing there. And I feel like there's got to be so many others that are being drawn to that. I mean, I find in my own life, that's a lot of what I like to do too. And so uh, I think it's definitely a worthwhile exploration for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that you live now, okay, on a military base in housing, and it sounds like you've
Yes.
never actually lived in like anything that would be considered a farm or farm life, and right? So
Not at all. So growing up, I always lived in the same house. It was a small home, fairly small property. My parents grew flowers, but never any food, nothing like that. And then I met my husband at Ohio State. So definitely in my apartment there, no growing anything.
right,
And then, yeah, we joined the military and have moved every 3 years since. So that's been a challenge.
yeah, but it's interesting that you're finding that these skills go with you. Is that right? Like
Yes.
they're
So that's
portable.
kind of what I think is important. My favorite quote is I feel like a lot of people in this space have heard it, but it's from Jess at Roots and Refuge, where she says, turn your waiting room into a classroom. So whether you are waiting for your forever homestead, or if you're like me, who is probably going to move still to the suburbs, turn what you're doing now into your classroom. So just because I can't have a huge garden doesn't mean that I can't garden at all. This is my first time having a garden in this house, just because it was the first space I had. And I've made so many mistakes now that when I build the huge garden, it won't be as huge of a mistake to make. Same
Right.
with yeah.
That's a big
Same
deal.
with canning. I buy a lot of local produce and whatnot. I love supporting our local farms, and they sell things in huge bushels. Last summer, I bought like 75 pounds of tomatoes at once in these like 25-pound crates. And I learned quickly that I was still very much new to canning, and
Mhm.
I about had a heart attack trying to deal with all those before they went bad, because that's
Right.
potatoes, you have to like peel them, and there's so many things.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
learning to
With
can now
strawberries.
before yeah, learning to can now before having all of my own produce go bad on the counter before I can deal with it is excellent. I mean, I just think that learning all this stuff now before you have, the abundance or the homestead of your dreams is very helpful for your future.
I think so too. I think that, I mean, I can't, I think I keep saying this, but it's like that idea of hearing the permission to just start where you are and follow that interest. And it's okay that you went and bought how many pounds of tomatoes?
It was
Because
75 pounds. Don't do that.
that's a lot more. I can't remember. I think I bought 25 pounds of strawberries and that nearly killed me. So 75 pounds of tomatoes.
25 pounds of strawberries is a lot. I
It
went to the
was.
strawberry farm yesterday and I
Okay.
got like 2 buckets, but it definitely wasn't that many.
No,
It was not 25 pounds.
I don't know. I'm sure I'm curious if you have the same type of thing that happens to you. You go, oh, it's like this abundance. We can do something with this. And then it's like the creativity, takes over. And then you
Yes.
get in there and you're halfway through it. You're like, I'm still over this pot sweating.
Yes.
And I
I
haven't planned anything yet.
I decided to freeze all mine this time,
Smart. So
just so
smart.
I could deal with it later, because I
Yeah.
can't handle it all right now.
But I love that too, right? Like I feel like sometimes people come to these types of things and they go, I want to learn how to can, but then sometimes there's these other baby steps that they can take, right? That are not, you don't have to know the whole process yet. It's just sometimes procuring the bulk item is the difficult step.
Yes.
Right.
And
So
I've learned so much more about freezing food than I knew existed. There were like, I don't know why I didn't know these things, but there's so much more that you can freeze, or different ways to freeze things, than I even knew.
yeah, I feel like there's a book. Do you know, or maybe you know about this book
I
about
have
freezing instead of canning? Like I think, oh, gosh, I'm sorry, I don't remember. This is like off the cuff, so I can't remember her name.
no,
But
I have a book called Freeze Fresh.
Yes, that
I
one.
don't remember her name
Okay,
either.
I'll put it in the notes here for this, but I feel like I remember getting that book and that was like life-changing for
Yes,
me.
it's excellent. So freezing is anytime that I don't feel like canning, I'll just freeze it and deal with it later.
Yeah, it's so nice to be able to do that. We actually,
Mhm.
because I started freezing so many things, I did go and find a separate freezer,
Yeah,
and our family uses that as our main way of storing things so much. Like from
I'm so jealous that
yeah,
I keep convincing my husband that we need one, and he's like, when we move, we can get one,
yeah.
but let's not move a freezer. We don't
I
need
agree with him on
it.
that, but what you can do, because it takes, I don't know if it still takes forever to get them, but like you can order them ahead of time so you don't have to wait the full 6 months.
My first move purchase. It's fine.
No big deal. Like I'm getting, that's how you're like, I really crossed into homesteading.
Yeah.
I'm ordering a freezer. Um, and it's like, this is all I have in my house. There's no couch, but I have a freezer. Everything's great.
That's all you need. It's
It's
fine.
like, I think so. Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about, because I'm like you too. I didn't grow up doing a lot of these things. I had very resourceful parents. And so, and I had parents who I had grandparents who I would say I learned a lot from in terms of how to garden and can. I mean, I often feel like I'm channeling my grandmothers because
Oh,
they did do all of this, and they did show me, except I was so little that at the time I was always like, whatever.
yeah.
But I do find that for me that sometimes these concepts aren't as daunting, because I do have this very deep memory of being, 5, 8, 10, watching someone do it, even though I may not have always participated. And so
Yeah.
but I still think that there's this component of shifting from that standard of living that is in our society to then going to this is challenging. And I know you talk a lot about shifting mindsets from being a consumer to, I don't know if you say it this way, but I always say it's like shifting from being a consumer to being into a creative and a maker kind of a thinking mindset. And I'm just curious what your opinion is about how people can navigate that shift. And um, I'm just curious how you would describe your consumer habits before become doing more of this
Yeah.
homesteading to like where you are now, and just
So the thing that drew me to homesteading
uh,
first was sustainability, really.
okay.
Um, and before even like the 2020 homesteading, the word became a thing.
No.
My like small, very slow journey towards natural living probably started in college, but it was so slow moving. And the things that I thought were sustainable then, now I probably laugh at.
Oh
I
well,
was,
the
yeah.
spectrum.
And so, um, I know a lot of people are drawn to homesteading for usually it's like health or like just the way of living, homeschooling, all that kind of stuff. But sustainability was really it for me. Like that was what drew me there. And for me, it's kind of tied to consumerism a lot. I definitely was a shopper. I still am a shopper. I wish I wasn't. It's like in me. I don't know
It's,
why it's in me.
yeah, I understand.
We just, grew up, we did a lot of shopping.
Mhm.
And so I still do, but I try now to do everything with more intention. So although I can't necessarily change what's in my bones, even though I want to, um, I anytime we need something new, I think about being more resourceful. And I think that just the whole resourceful mindset is part of homesteading. So I first look on our local like buy nothing pages, try to get something for free, used. Then I'll go like secondhand thrift stores. If I can't find it there, I'll go to online thrift stores and then I will buy new if necessary. So, although I'm still buying things a lot, I tend to try to buy a lot more secondhand, just because obviously that's the more sustainable thing to do.
Right. Yes. Yes, it is. I know. And it's funny. I don't know about you, or how did, you started, did you grow up doing any secondhand shopping, or how did that get introduced to you?
So not really growing up and not with my family, except in high school. We thought it was really cool, like before the song even came out,
I
it's
know.
cool to go to Goodwill. And and so we would buy really weird things. I mean, we were so weird. But I would buy a lot of my clothes thrifted. Like little kids like baseball t-shirts with like random numbers and last names on the
Oh
back.
yeah, that's the best.
We that was the coolest that we wore in
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me more familiar and comfortable with going into thrift stores. And then I feel like I I always still liked thrifting, but through college and stuff, I was like number one like makeup consumer. I had all of the MAC makeup, like every eyeshadow color they could possibly have.
There's
I
so many. So yeah.
all of the buckle jeans. I don't
Oh
that was
yeah.
really cool with the crazy pockets. Um just like all the anything you could buy at the mall. I mean, it was
I forgot about buckle. That's a good memory.
oh
Thank you
yeah.
for that. I'm like, they always have the best like displays. You walk in, you're like, I want those.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Ridiculous pants. I yeah.
Mhm.
So it took me a very long time, I think, I think what actually happened first was I started shopping small, and I still do.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a lot easier rather than just going right to secondhand to, okay, well, I know that these companies probably aren't so good for the environment. They're probably not treating their workers so great. Let's shop small. And I still buy a ton of like small shop t-shirts and that kind of thing. So that definitely pulled me into that realm. And now it's really nice too because I do still get to shop and buy new clothes sometimes, but I always do so with intention, things that are going to last longer.
Yeah.
A lot of the pieces that I have, I feel like I'll probably have forever. So
Right.
that's nice.
I know. I remember when I made that shift too. I mean, I actually, I did grow up with a parent who my mother loves thrift shopping. I don't know. So it was kind of fun to have a guide. But I too remember being like a teen and just being like, well, I can create something completely different than anybody has, right? Because you
Yeah.
find things there where it's contemporary, it's vintage, it's just weird. And right, and you can like mix and match things, and
Yeah.
then suddenly you get to experience your own style without having it to be dictated as much as like it was great to be,
Yeah.
head to toe in a buckle outfit, but like,
You wear the
but
buckle jeans with the thrifted t-shirt and then you're
yes,
good.
you were very, yeah, it was very cool, I guess. But I think, I think those are really good tips for people because if you walk into a thrift store and you've never been there and you're hit with that thrift store smell and the grittiness of the floor and the fact that the lighting is bad and you just are like, why am I in here?
Yeah.
But if you go there, like just embracing that experience is so helpful. And I do think you curate and start learning what you like and what you're looking for over time.
Yeah.
And those things then start to stick out to you more.
And
Uh,
anybody who wants to get into it, I do think that like home decor is so much easier to
yes.
thrift than
Right.
clothes. And kids' clothes are really easy because they're
Yes.
usually not very worn. So those are probably the two things that I still buy the most of. I would love to get all my clothes thrifted, but sometimes it's pants are hard. There's certain
Yeah.
things.
I remember having a friend who was like, I'll never go to a thrift store. I'll never buy anything used or whatever. We were in college and I was like, well, but you buy all your textbooks used. And I was like, technically, you're thrifting. And she's like, oh, and it was like the door, it was like gateway to her. She's like, wait a minute, so that I can get useful things that are secondhand. And I was like, yeah, isn't it amazing? Like, wow, the world is astounding. But
Yes.
I agree with you. Yeah. Like, uh, home decor is way easier and you can wash it. Like, I feel like you can really scrub something. And so if you're like, a little bit of the, the germ or dust over,
Sure.
like, I don't know if I want that. It's like, there is something really exciting about bringing a home decor item like back to life. And you go, oh, this was
Yes.
really stunning when it was brand new. And it still is. Like, there's something glorious about that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I love all that. Okay, so we've gone through, this is a lot of shifts that you've done, really. I mean, starting sustainability wise, and then, traveling through all these different realms of homesteading. And now I know you're doing a lot of work with herbalism and herbs and
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about, which is how you and I kind of, I think our paths crossed, right? Is like, I
Mhm.
think is, well, I don't know. I feel like we've overlapped in these different realms of homesteading, um, which I still struggle with labeling myself in that boat. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of labeling,
Yeah.
I still don't feel like I can call myself an herbalist.
I
I don't know.
understand.
It feels weird.
Yeah.
I've taken several courses. I've taken
Mhm.
courses from the Herbal Academy. I've taken um Ariel Dave Martinez's
Oh
course. I took that one last year, but it's the Wild Mother's Medicine Chest. Is that what it's
yeah.
called?
Yeah.
Really
Oh,
like that one.
fun.
I've taken many courses, I've read many books, but I really just got into this last year. But like apparently everything, I don't know if I just have some kind of addictive personality. I just dove in.
No, I think you can phrase it as like it's just a thirst for you know,
I like that.
knowledge and exploration. It's adventurous. You're very adventurous.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as I've been trying to move us towards a more natural living, I guess the herbs really did start like herbal tea when I was pregnant the last time. A lot of people start with a pregnancy tea. Um, and that's very common. Like even advice from like a regular doctor would probably tell you to do this kind of thing. So that's something that's really accessible to people. Even though it's a weird time to be starting herbs when you're pregnant,
It
but
is. I agree.
that's I think that that's how a lot of people get into it, though. I really do.
Yeah, I think they have a midwife or they have their OB goes like, well, you
Yeah,
can like raspberry leaf or whatever, and you're like, oh, what? Okay, again,
yeah.
nothing to say here
Seriously,
though.
I had never heard of it until I had never heard of nettle until I was pregnant, ever. And now
Right.
that's like
Yes.
everyday consumption.
Right. They're all like, take these prenatals. Oh, and by the way, there's this weird plant over here you should also probably introduce into your diet for all of its mineral content. You're going,
Yeah,
what? Okay.
yeah. I had no idea these things existed.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a ride, but
Mm.
I, as I'm learning, I'm trying to introduce it to people in a way that's a little bit more meeting people where they're at. So it's even hard for me. A lot of the herbalism that I guess introduce to people does kind of look at things from a more allopathic mindset where it's like take this herb for this, take
Uh-huh.
this for this, instead of thinking things a little bit more holistically. But I'm not a practitioner and I don't know people's medical history or what they really have going on. So I don't want to either. That's not my thing.
I'm right there with you. I also have, it's like my herbal path has been long and deep for the last couple of years, but I've gotten to that point where I could go into that next level and become, what is that? A medical herbalist? I don't know. It's that next level of training. And
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I love this like folk herbalism aspect and
Yes.
the knowledge that comes with that and how, yeah, holistic it is and approachable, but then not wanting to sit there with someone and go, well, what's your ailment? And I just, yeah, I feel like I would need so much more education. But
Yeah. I would never trust myself really enough. But I do think that um I'm kind of someone who likes to mix the two. I like to mix herbalism with modern medicine. So still looking at it this way for me right now, this is where I'm at. You know, I am looking at my problems a little bit more holistically. Moving from the pregnancy, the next step for me was kind of the only like regular medication that I was on was an anxiety medication. And I had looked for a long time to want to try to get off of that. So I'm not recommending for people to do this. Do
you know,
not do this without doctors. Listen to your doctor.
yes, exactly. That's our little medical claim right here. Yes.
I hate disclaimers, but it is what it is.
Well, it's just you don't want someone, yeah, going off the rails somewhere, and you're like, it's just. But it is good to bring it up and ask, right, to your practitioners and your medical guidance. Yes,
Yes,
and that it
absolutely.
exists as an option, I think, is where I also come from. Where it's like letting people know, like there are other things you can do. Like I mean, I know doctors will recommend like meditation as part of anxiety protocols. So I mean, there's there's a wide variety. So anyways,
I
keep going.
love that. And you practice yoga too a lot, right?
Yes, I do. It's like I mean I am a certified yoga teacher. I just don't like share a lot of that either.
Yeah.
But And so it creeps into the different things that I do, but
Maybe I'll have you share more. No.
yeah, you'll get me there. But
But yeah, no, absolutely. So I started taking ashwagandha instead of my medicine, but at the time I did talk to my doctor about getting off of it. And because it was really mild, it wasn't anything super crazy. So they were like, try it. If you decide to go back on it, you still have your prescription, you're good to go. So I did, and I switched to ashwagandha, which I had been on for quite some time. Now I usually actually only take it occasionally because it's not something that's really recommended for like super long term.
Huh.
But and it gives me crazy dreams if I have it at night. Crazy weird dreams.
It's, those mushrooms. It's like, I don't know.
Watchers, it's really not that weird, I promise. And it's not.
Well, I feel like plants though do that. Fungi and plants, like they have these, they're living items, like
Mhm.
where you're taking something from a medical provider, it's often synthetic, and which is great. They have figured out, science is incredible, right? Like it's figured out how to do these things. And I go, we're at this point where it's so interesting to watch as these worlds kind of, it's like they created a whole circle and we're coming back around where they're meeting again and being like, wait, we actually can be in collaboration together and support. But I have found this too with
Really?
plants, is that when you turn to them because they're living things, that there's this something there that you don't get from just taking like a Tylenol, that there's some other element that comes in, like, yeah, like dreams, or you're going like, why is this causing me to, like, I don't know, having like an existential crisis? It'll be like a minute and then it goes away. And you're like, I feel fine now, or whatever.
Yeah.
Lemon balm does that to me when I want to calm.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I love lemon balm. It's like one of my favorite herbs. It showed up in my garden one day. Who knows from where? They will do that too. They'll just like pop up in your garden and you'll be like, I didn't plant you. Where are you from? And,
Cool.
they always say in herbalism, it's like these plants find you when you need them, I guess.
Mhm.
And I remember working with lemon balm and drinking it and going like, what is this feeling I'm having? And I just, like, before the calm could set in, I had to like experience whatever the residual anxiety was or something.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
super cool.
It was
I
my
mean,
own
it's not
experience.
cool for you, but it's really cool to hear about.
Yeah, I don't have that every time anymore, but I'm just saying, like, so that to me, what I'm, long story short, that makes sense that you would have dream effects from
Yeah.
ashwagandha. I'm curious, but so you don't have to take it very often anymore. That's also interesting.
I just do like when I'm feeling a little on edge, usually in the form of a tea. I have the tincture as
Mm-hmm.
well that I will use, but yeah, trying to just kind of use things as I need them. And it's good to, in anything herbal, to kind of stop using something for a while and then deciding if you really, just like regular medicine, it's
Yep.
probably good to make sure we're still on a good track. So
I think it's always good to have that ability to know that something isn't well, right? It's that idea that, like, it's not you find something that works for you right now, and then it's like the next day you go, this is still working, and then things do, like, you change, right? And though everything changes around
mhm.
you, so it's good to keep those things fluid and checking in with yourself and
Yeah.
seeing how you're feeling. Yeah. Um, well, I'm excited that you're exploring this realm. I've enjoyed your tea series. It's been fun to
Oh,
kind of
thank
see
you.
those through. Yeah, like pop through. I'm like, oh, that's really fun. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about making a tea for, this or that. And they look beautiful. And I'm like, oh, I can't, I printed out one. I was like, oh, I want to try this. This will be really fun.
That's the fun part about tea. It's an experience.
Yeah.
They're pretty, they're fun. It was really fun to make. I was like paranoid before this series and I took all these courses to make sure that I was going to be doing proper blending. So I really tried hard to create these to be the best. And it's just so fun to have now because a lot of my herbalism has started with me just making a ton of tinctures,
Mm,
which if anybody has never taken a tincture before, I'm sure that like hardcore herbalists maybe are just used to it. I don't enjoy it.
yeah. So, yeah, you gotta, like, you could develop like a callus on your tongue or something. I don't know. Yeah,
Not my favorite thing to take.
no.
But unless, I made something in apple brandy, not so bad, but some like the ashwagandha in Everclear is a little rough.
Yeah.
So the teas are a really fun way to get some similar effects, maybe a little bit more mild, but similar effects and more enjoyable effects out of the herbs.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's right. That's a nice way to be introduced to it too, right? People are familiar with tea, and
Yes.
I think socially and just in everyday life, we use tea for different things. Like there's like sleepy time tea. And so there's already teas that's we commonly use for different things. So I think that's a really nice way to enter that world.
Yeah,
Sure.
and the teas that I made are crazy blends, but honestly, anybody who's looking to get into it, you can just try one thing at a time. So most people are familiar with a sleepy time chamomile tea. Try just chamomile. Try just peppermint. Just ginger. And then we talked about raspberry leaf earlier. Any of these things, we don't have to discount it just because it's kind of common or, mainstream herbs.
Right.
They're popular for a reason. So,
well, and I think people do feel like, I think they don't taste bad either, and you can sweeten them a little bit. And so it's not something that is, it's not going to be so surprising to you and your taste buds, right? It's not going to be completely off that spectrum. And yeah. So I think that's a really good point. And then that idea of that can be your first thing to go to. That can be empowering too, right? Like, oh, I have a headache. Well, what if I just make this little simple tea with like peppermint and like some other items in it and go, oh, I do feel a little bit better, right? And then you didn't have to go down the path of taking other things. So I do like that idea.
That idea excites me like the most because I've always struggled with headaches. And I used to just take Excedrin every time, which makes me crazy because it has so much caffeine in it too.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I could probably speed clean the whole house, which sounds great, but that if it's doing these things to you, it probably isn't so good for you. And now I do take both the tea and a tincture when I have a really serious one, and I don't need to take anything. It's weird. Like I almost don't trust it, but like
I know, yeah. It's so gentle. You're going, how is like me putting these leaves in water going to result in me feeling better? It does seem, but the part that I always get to is that it's like, well, but our ancestors, have been doing this forever.
I know.
And I think the thing is I always talk to people about that, where it's like, well, sometimes too, it's like when you start with one, it didn't do anything. At least you still had a really good flavorful experience. It was delicious and soothing in that way. And then try a different one, or you don't know what will eventually might work, and just keep exploring. So
yes,
yeah. And they know, and we know that's like peppermint safe, and
yeah,
and you can get them from reputable companies that are that are growing things well. And so if you're not comfortable growing them yourself or whatever, like you can just purchase them. And I know do you have a place that you like to get your herbs, especially?
Yeah, my favorite is Star West Botanicals online. Also Frontier and Mountain Rose Herbs, like everybody else. I like all of them. Usually my go-to is Star West though. And yeah, all of these companies have great things. All of those three in my mind are great. And also I've been looking a little bit more at teas recently on Etsy, and a lot of people sell stuff they grow in their backyard. So that's not necessarily reputable. I don't know. I don't know what these people's yards are like, but it's
a good point. Yeah.
It feels, I mean, if they're saying they're not spraying anything on it, I'm sure they're not.
Right.
And it's kind of like a lovely thing. I was just looking at a summer tea, and she was like, a picture of the flowers in her backyard that she cut, and then she hand dried all these. It was just lovely. And so I bought the tea.
Of course. I actually, it's one of my favorite things to do when we travel anywhere, is I will find like a tea blend from that area, which is one of my favorite things. So then when I come home, it's like it gives you that sensory memory of where you were. And
I love that idea. I'm going to steal that for sure.
Yeah, go for it. It's like, I love doing that. So like my family, we love going to the coast out here, and there's a chai company there, and it's like I can't find the chai anywhere else, and so I always just buy it there, and then I bring it home, and it's like, oh, okay, I feel like I need that like foggy morning
Cool.
experience or whatever. And yeah, I think there's an element that herbs can be transportive in that way, and really kind of connect us to things that really matter to us. And
I love that.
yeah, so it's like, how do you live your best life? It's like, it doesn't have to be very complicated, I don't think.
Yeah.
Which brings me to this question, which I wrote it and I was kind of like, well, I don't know. It's very simple, but it's more of like, it just in your own words, if you could kind of, I feel like you've done a really good job already, but maybe even just telling us like what it means to be a modern homesteader, since that is what you say. And I love that term, modern
Yes.
homesteader.
So I actually wrote this one out. So I'm totally
Okay.
gonna read what I wrote really
Yay,
quick.
good.
Um, so a modern homesteader doesn't yearn for the past. A modern homesteader learns the ways of the past only to move forward. So the reason why I say this,
Yeah, give me chill. Thank you.
it's from what I mean, everything that I see online, and maybe what might turn some people away, it obviously brings a lot of people in. But is this like, I want to live like they did in the olden days? I don't.
Neither do I. Mm-mm.
So, uh, and recently too, there was somebody who was talking about, you know, doing homesteading and everything is learning the essentials, and all we need are the essentials, which is growing food and this and that. I want all the non-essentials. Like I want to learn this stuff and to teach other people this stuff so that we all have this base level that we can be on, where we know, these important things and we have them in our back pocket when we need them. But then we can go do what we want. We can be healthier and happier, and we can all go do what we want and do the non-essentials. So to me, that's what it means to be a modern homesteader.
I gotta like let that sink in, because that is beautiful. I don't, I'm like, yes, because when you can do these things and you go and you know how to nourish yourself and take care of yourself really well, then you do show up in these other areas, and then you're really are your most excellent self, right? At that point, because you've tended to these aspects of who you are.
Yeah. Learning the things that ground us, learning the things that make us healthier. And then we can all go do the fun things and enjoy our time here.
I am so excited to see what this, like, the generation of children that like you're raising, like who they're going to be, because they're going to come from these families that, you're like, I mean, maybe they'll be like, process everything, but
I can't believe my mom did that. She took these weird herbs.
right? I was doing something the other day, and I was looking at my kids and like, you have these really weird memories of your mother doing these things that are like, what are you doing over there, mom? But maybe they'll be really wonderful in terms of like even these pastoral, nostalgic ways that people, I think, envision, like even our grandmothers and great grandmothers doing, probably more great grandmothers living. And I know that was hard, and they didn't have a choice. And I think that's the part that I always get there, where I'm like, yeah, they had these homesteading skills. They had no choice. That's what, like, that was what they could do. But I like that you're saying like there's still value in these skills in this modern age. But you can go and, we need people who understand these elements of sustainability and the knowledge of nature connection, because I think that's what we're going to need moving forward, as a species on this planet, to take care of each other. So, yeah. Oh, this is amazing. Right there with you.
I'm running into things now.
No.
We're just geeking out over all these homesteading things here. I love it.
I know, it's good. It's good. And I think it's nice to be able to like talk in person, face to face, as we were saying, because it's like you can get online and do these different things with people and read what they're doing. But then when you start to actually communicate one-on-one, you go, oh, okay, so you're doing this too. And and you're doing this over there. And you suddenly realize that you're all part of a very large tapestry of working together,
That's sweet. I love that.
Alabama to, all the way over here in California.
Even far, far away. Yes.
Yeah.
We probably couldn't be too much farther here. So
No, I don't think so. But okay, so I'm just curious, what are you, excited to explore next? I know you're finishing, or I don't know, are you finishing out your tea series? And then but what's exciting you right now? Or
yes. So finishing up the tea series, it's been great, but just like everybody else, that's like, to me, we have teas all year round, but it's much more comforting and cold weather, and I'm ready to move to the sunshine things. So sadly, because we are moving, I can't really do much in my garden this year. It's making me really sad, but I could grow stuff, but then I'm gonna have to rip it out. And my sustainability, like, part of me is also like, am I gonna buy all of this stuff? I can't do it. So whatever's in my garden right now is what I got. So I am going to try to embrace spring and summer for different things. Like, I am going to make different fun drinks and different, I don't even know. I want to explore a little bit more of like learning how to extract scents from flowers, because it's a little bit more difficult, a lot more difficult than you would just think it would be.
I would love to explore that with you, because I just started doing that a couple weeks ago, and not successfully.
Yeah. Yeah. I can get the scent out of lavender, but that's about it.
Yeah, I've done a lot of like oil infusing, but it's like different when you're trying to actually like get the, I don't know, like rose water or whatever.
Yeah.
Have it actually smell okay.
In my dreams, I'll get a whole cool distiller thing.
Ooh, yeah.
Instead of, I knew you can do it at home, but in my dream suburban homestead, I'll have my own way of,
like that copper beautiful thing.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I know exactly.
that.
Yeah, there's something beautiful and ancient looking about those things.
Yes. And it seems like that might be the only real way to get some floral scents at home. But I want to learn about it as much as I can now before purchasing any piece of unnecessarily expensive equipment. So.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I'm curious then, are you going to get to be able, I don't know, before you move, like go and explore? I know you grew up there, but I feel like sometimes when you return home to places, it's like rediscovering the space that you were in. I guess it's a different perspective, right? You're returning older.
I feel like it's going to be totally different this time, because I've also been getting into foraging for the first time. Most of my herbs are all purchased. I don't forage a ton, especially around here on a military base. Like, everything is sprayed and creepy, and so I try where I can, but I'm just really excited to see things with a new perspective. I will live near a national park there. Obviously, I can't forage there, but just seeing things and being back in nature, I'm really excited about.
That's going to be great. I'm excited to watch that journey with you and see.
And I'm hoping along the way I can help teach people how to move a garden, because I'm going to have to figure some things out, and I might try to move some plants with me.
Hey, I think you're not alone in that. There are, plant lovers do not want to, especially if you've tended to something for a really long time. I mean, I had to leave a jade plant that we'd cultivated forever, and it was like passed down, and it was just too big. It was like, the pot itself was like 200 pounds. I was like, please take care of this ancient baby. It's coming with the house, but oh well.
If you could send yearly Christmas cards, pictures of it, that would be great.
I know. I was like, I'm taking a cutting, which I have, but I'm always like, But you should ask them. Can you send me a little Christmas card with it? That'd be nice. Well, this has been so nice to talk to you and have this time together. I really appreciate it. And
you as well. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Oh no, this is so fun. It's fun to be able to connect with people that you see online and explore these different topics with things, and then recognize that oh hey, it's like, this is like a version, it's like pen pals but modern.
Yeah, I like it.
Go under the modern homesteading, I suppose. There we go. I would love for you to share though where people can find you, and if you have anything else that you want, your social handles and things like that. And I'll put it in the show notes too, but it's nice for them to hear it.
Yeah. So my main platform is the blog. That's the homesteadchallenge.com. And then I am Brittany L. Gibson on Instagram. So those are my two main places. Not huge into Facebook. I am actually creating an herbalism course very much for beginners. I've started this in January. I was supposed to launch it in March. I'm a little bit behind as life has happened, and I've just been loving putting out content on the blog, so I prioritized that. But that will be coming out shortly, and it's very much for beginners to look at swaps. It's specifically a course for swaps. So usually you take Tylenol, take this. Usually you take this, take that. And that is, I realize, more of an allopathic way of looking at things, instead of more holistic, but trying to meet people where they are at, introducing them to some simple herbs that way.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, that'll be fun to, once this is published, then we'll see if I can put it in there so people can have a link to it as well. So you can.
Guess that's going to make me finish this course. Yeah.
Perfect. I love it. We all can collectively motivate each other to, reach our potential. It's just amazing. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you again for joining and being here. And I'm hoping everyone will just go and explore all the amazing things you offer.
Well, thank you so much. And it was lovely talking to you.
Yes, you too. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Brittany as much as I did. You can learn more about Brittany and all she has to offer on her website, thehomesteadchallenge.com, where she also has a brand new homesteading handbook that she has created just for you so that it can help you get started on your homesteading journey. This interview was part of a series that we are exploring simple and slow living through the magic of the seasons. And you can find more of these conversations over at afarmtokeep.com. Thanks again for joining us today. I can't wait to see you back here again at the farmhouse.